tomorrow morning. It's not
Yeah.
one of those tranquil snows where it's like 30 and it's actually kind of nice to be outside when the snow falls. You know what I mean? This is like one of them just like brutally miserable freezing fog snows too. So it's not we can't even get a fun snow for a significant snow. Dom, how are you doing?
Doing okay. Yeah, on I think on Monday it's gonna be -7. Not to talk about the weather, but really just bracing for how cold it's going to be. But other than that, just enjoying. I took a week off from work because I have a crap ton of PTO to spend, but will evaporate by the end of March. So, birthday week. Anyway, in terms of in terms of getting my shit together for the start of the year, it's been rough. Like Joe said, I think collectively, yeah, as we said, it's really rough start to the year for various personal reasons. And yeah, it'll get better. Guys, it'll get better. Like the movies.
Yes, indeed, too, because it's also been a very weird, I guess not really weird. Like this weekend too, Captain America comes out, which I don't know if you guys saw. I don't have any interest in seeing it. It's not on the Sleepless schedule. I told you I forfeited Marvel movies really largely after Guardians 3. Um, it's getting fucking lambasted. Like
Oh, really?
yeah, I don't know. I
Really?
don't know
I
if
thought it was just getting mixed reviews. I didn't know it was getting lambasted.
yeah, it's down to like 48 on Rotten Tomatoes now.
Oh
And
shit.
well, and here's the thing, the reason I say land-based because you look at like 48%, and this is the deception of Rotten Tomatoes. Three of the four critics that I like that have reviewed it
Live and online, it's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, it is Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. We come to you live and in living color amidst an unbearably miserable stretch of weather here in the Midwest. Sub-zero temperatures for the whole week. It's that time of year. It sucks. Can confirm. But the good news is, however, is that we are talking about a movie today that has been on the docket, kind of like I call it like a floater. Like a movie that's like outside of our schedule because we don't know when we'll get to review it because I don't know when we don't know when it was going to come out. But this movie, this has been the new Cha-Cha Real Smooth I've been taunting the guys with. Because if you remember back in 2022, I caught Cha-Cha Real Smooth via virtual Sundance, and I saw that in late January, and I told the guys we have to watch this movie. I just don't know when it's going to come out. And sure enough, then it came out June of that year, I believe. Where this one got a screener of it back in 2023. I want to say 2023, and it's been about a year and a half since I first watched this movie and been telling you guys about it a lot. Now, I thought it was going to come out by the end of 2023 and we'd be able to see it. But it's a Canadian production, and it's a movie called I Like Movies. And I think it's very almost surreal in a way that we're talking about a movie like this on a show like this, too. Knowing the personality types of all three gentlemen here today, Joe Viso and Dominic Guanzon, the gang is all here today for a great show that's going to dominate our show. First things first, though, we got to draw some attention. Not only is it fitting to the movie itself today, but we got to draw some attention to that very cool bucket hat that you have, Joe. I love that thing.
Yeah. So I went to AMC this weekend to go watch Paddington and the new Captain America movie. And luckily the trip was worth it because I got this bucket hat out of it. And the craziest part was there was a 50% off clearance item sticker on here. And I went up to the guy and I'm like, "Hey, has this already been taken down from $20?" He's like, "No, this thing's $10." I said, "Sir, I will buy this bucket hat right now." It's an AMC one. It's got the logo right in the middle. It says, "We make movies better," just like Nicole Kidman always says. And it's reversible, too. If you flip it over, it becomes a popcorn one with their signature AMC popcorn logo right there. But I really just love the red side the most, man. This is like one of my favorite purchases I've gotten at AMC. Like this, I know people are loving those popcorn buckets and everything, but this might be my favorite thing I actually bought at AMC recently.
I would so snag one of those. I can't even find one.
It was the only one on the shelf. It's almost like nobody like really bought it. Like they were just testing it out, and they went, no schmuck is gonna buy it. And then here comes me. Oh boy, a bucket hat.
That would have been me too if I would have seen it. The only thing I could find really on it was I think it was part of a popcorn merch collection that
Maybe.
AMC did last year because they had like that the reversible side of that hat that's got all the close-ups of the kernels.
Yeah.
Looked like the hoodie. They had a hoodie that was all popcorn. They had sweatpants that were all popcorn. Thank God I did not see that when that would drop because I would have too much drip. Too much drip. Because they had like, it was like joggers that were all popcorn, a matching hoodie, and that hat. Oh my God. You know, that would have been too much swag right there. What was that song years ago? Swag through the roof. That would have been me to the galaxy right there. Would have totally blew a bag on that.
And like one of my friends was like, "I bet you could find it online." And I'm like, "No, if you go on their hats and beanies on the website, it's just the standard black cap with the red logo. They have a Thrills and Chills one, which I kind of want because I love going to Thrills and Chills from time to time. And then they just have movie merch like a Smile 2, a Dune 2, Sonic 3, Garfield.
Yeah, I looked. I couldn't find it on there.
Yeah.
That's going to be a real collector item, I think. Yeah. That's going to be a real collector item.
Yeah, I'm going to Lollapalooza wearing this fucking thing, dude.
Catherine has amassed a little bit of a popcorn bucket collection. I mentioned off air right before we went on that we're going to go to. No, we're not seeing the monkey till next week, but we're going to go tomorrow just to get one of the popcorn buckets because I got a tip off from a friend at AMC. They only got 8. So they have very few of them in stock. I don't know how popular that movie is going to be. I think it's going to be decently popular though. But we've got the Dune popcorn bucket. We've got Ghostface. That was a Cinemark one, I believe.
Hmm.
Yeah, we got quite a few here, and
I
they're
think
cool.
I think that movie's gonna do better than expected because I think with the three-peat we got with horror movies recently, with Nosferatu, Companion, and Hard Eyes, kind of just being actual like great to good horror films. I think like people might be like, "Fuck it, I'll go see The Monkey." Like, there's been a good track record of horror movies lately.
I agree, and Oz Perkins is a name now. Like I do think that he's vaulted now to being a
Yeah,
recognizable name, at least for horror movie fans. It's hard to forget a name like Oz Perkins too, you know. But
Director Oz Perkins, not Dr. Oz, as I had originally saw in that text. No.
no, that's a sweet hat though, man. I would rock the shit out of that. So
yeah.
good
I
on
was
you
gonna
for
wear
picking
it,
that
but
up.
then my headphones were pushing down in the seam and they were kind of cutting into my ears. I'm like, all right, well, this ain't worth it.
Well, I appreciate you showing off, though, no less. But it's good to see you, gentlemen. How are you dealing with the cold temperatures? I think it's a little, not that that's saying much, but I think it's a little tiny bit warmer out by you guys than it is up here.
Go ahead, Dime. I was talking already.
It's okay. We've had Arctic blasts like this before, even colder. Polar vortex comes to mind, but in terms of the cold, yeah, it's effing cold. It takes like what's the number? It's like 3 weeks it takes for our bodies to get reconditioned to the cold, or give or take.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm
Yeah,
so
about
layered
that.
up, I never get to that point, so it's okay. But in terms of uh, day to day, hey man, remote start. That's the key. If you have it, then definitely use it. It'll save you some time and some good finger feeling if you can maintain it.
Like I am not. My car is 15 years old, and so I don't have remote start in it.
Mm,
I never put it in. Obviously, it
right.
didn't come with it. That is like, I see a lot of like the new car features and stuff like that. I'm not, I think it's one of those things that like you might not be particularly crazy, but then you get it, and then you don't know how you could live without it. It's that kind of thing. That is probably the one major thing I would change about my vehicle, though, if I could, is to get like do the remote start because it's a lifesaver on days like today. And then but then at the same time, there's also the kind of like simultaneous paranoia and also intrigue on a day like this when you start your car and it has to like chug a little bit more and you hear the squeal of the belt and it's like, are you gonna start? Are you gonna start today? Like, but good on you for having that though, because on a day like today, it's a complete game changer on a week like this, rather, not just so much a day. But we're going to talk about a movie. And I should say, Joe and Dom are going to talk a little bit more about this movie than myself because, similar to Cha Cha Real Smooth, I've had my review of this movie up for a year and a half now. And I've sung its praises. It was on our Best of 2023 show when I talked about it quite a bit. And I've honestly, the thing that's exciting about this thing now being available is that, like, I can actually finally like gauge more people's thoughts on this thing. There's nothing worse than like when you see a movie early and then like you can't really talk to anybody about it and stuff. Like Catherine and I watched it, so we've been like the two, feels like an island of two of like a movie this movie for the last year. This I'll just give a little bit of background here really briefly. The movie's called I Like Movies. It's made by Chandler Levack, um, written and directed by her, and it stars Isaiah, a lot of names you probably wouldn't recognize right off the bat. Isaiah Lettinen is the star of this movie. He's also on Letterboxd, fun fact. So there's that, and that plays into the movie completely. Probably the biggest name here, Krista Bridges has done a little bit, probably, or she's done. I say a little bit as I just hover over a Wikipedia, more than 110 films. She's done quite a bit. Krista Bridges probably the biggest name in this. Percy Hines White, though, however, I just want to throw this out there. Percy Hines isn't even funny. He's on the come up. He's a 23-year-old Canadian actor, and I want to throw it out because he was in a Christmas Horror Story from a few years ago, and last year he was in the movie My Old Ass with Aubrey Plaza, and he's great in that movie. And I think he's going to be. I think he's like a breakout role away from being a pretty big next generation type of star, Percy Hines White, who plays the friend in this movie. So I just want to throw that out there. I'll just give brief background on this movie. Essentially, again, this is a Canadian production. I think part of the reason it was trying to get distribution outside of the US, which is what kind of held up the release for, on streaming sites and stuff like that. But essentially, this movie is set in 2003. It's shot in the letterboxed format, so it's shot in 4:3, and it essentially revolves around a kid named Lawrence Queller, and he's played by Isaiah Lettinen in his acting debut. He's 17 years old. He's like socially awkward, sarcastic cinephile. He lives in Ontario. His dream is to go to NYU for film school and be like his idol, Paul Thomas Anderson. Why he won't go to a Canadian university, he says very bluntly, I don't want to be a Canadian filmmaker in the early part of the movie. But the movie revolves around him. He lives with this single mother. His best friend is a great name on his friend is Matt McCarchuk. I don't know why that name always stuck with me, but Matt McCarchuk, played by Percy Hines White, is his best friend, and basically the two of them, um, they host this thing. It's called Rejects Night, and basically it's the two of them like watching movies, watching television, kind of like staying away from the teenage like social gathering party scene and stuff like that. But the complicated factor though here is that NYU is obviously a very expensive school, and Lawrence has a single mother who's not going to easily be able to afford NYU film school. So he gets a job working in a Blockbuster Video. And he thinks, because he's 17 years old and loves movies, he thinks that it's going to be recommending people art house cinema when he doesn't realize that like chain video stores, and it's dated now because they don't really exist anymore, but like that was a thing.
They even have a funny joke about that too near the end of the movie where
They
like
do.
the CEO, not the CEO, but like kind of like a headquarters manager comes in and says something.
Yeah, there's probably a better half of the generation doesn't even know this, but video stores, like, they used to have quotas, especially for new movies that would come in, like, to purchase or to rent. They would have a wall of movies, like in this case, Shrek. And the goal would be the stores would have like, okay, like the bigger the store, like, okay, rent 40 copies of this in a week or something like that. So you would have to push that, which doesn't sit very well with Lawrence. There's another part of this movie too where they agreed to direct the school's year-end video project for their film class. That's kind of the overarching sort of plot line in this movie as well. There's so much to chew on with this thing, and I think this is a movie. Another reason I recommended it, not only because it's great, but I think that I've never really seen a movie quite like this. I've never been called out by a movie quite like this. You know, that really sat with me. And there's a lot of touches in this thing that I think are really beautiful. I think that there's some really great scenes of dialogue and just interpersonal character development here. There's a lot to chew on. We'll start with you, Joe. How did you react to I Like Movies?
So, coming of age stories in general, I typically really do enjoy. I feel like they do a great job at just finding an up and coming young actor, or a group of them in some cases, and allow them to like kind of flex their acting chops. Like Superbad was one of them. Does a great job at like taking Jonah Hill, Michael Cera. They were kind of up and coming with a few of them are on TV shows and whatnot. Eighth Grade, directed by Bo Burnham. The list goes on and on. What I always love about it is like always taking that just a slice of life, literally, and you are seeing them kind of have a turning point in their life throughout the duration of the film. And if there's one turning point in time, I think a ton of people can relate to, because there's so many different coming of age movies that people might not be able to relate to. And while there is the big case of like if you're a film buff, if you're a film geek, whatever, you'll heavily relate to this movie. I think also like the big factor is of course where you want to go to school and everything, and your senior year, and making sure that counts. Making sure you're making the most of it when it counts. This movie for me, it hit home more than any other coming age movie has recently. Because I like Lawrence. I too loved movies, and I still do to this day. But I really loved them growing up. And I was kind of a jackass to people about how much I loved movies. I would be like, oh, you haven't seen, the 1945 film. I'll be saying that and everything. My friends would be like, hey, Joe, we're going to go see Terminator Genesis after school. You want to come with? I don't want to go see that. I would stick my nose up and high. Oh, the real Terminator films are the one that Cameron directed, and it's just like, why don't we go see this film over here called, I don't know, like the Vitch or something, the Witch. Um, so it was funny to see Lawrence kind of, emulate the same behaviors I did. Um, even down to the point of like, oh, I want to go to school because I want to make movies. That's how much I love them. I mean, like, I think like every film buff geek goes through a period where it's like, no, I really want to do this. Like whether it's like going to school for it or they want to just make like some like indie project or something. I feel like everybody has that like moment in their head, like I want to make something. Um, Usually a film or something will like inspire that. For me, it was Whiplash. That's what mainly did it. I was like, that was the movie that made me want to actually like apply and like make movies and everything. Um, that was after high school, but like I still wanted to like pursue that even after high school. Um, but the thing also I think this movie does a great job, and this is what I put in my letterbox review, is that this movie does a great job at the targeted audience it is made for. It holds a mirror up and it shows everything that's fun and quirky about being a film buff, but it also shows the ugly side of making your life surrounding movies and your personality and really thinking like you're above everyone else because like you love this art form so much. Uh and it's that part right there that I feel like does such a great job at like making me go like, wow, um this movie is very unique in that sense because you get so many movies about filmmakers talking about how much they love movies. From Cinema Paradiso, here I go being fucking Lawrence right now. From Cinema Paradiso to like any Quentin Tarantino joint, to like just anything surrounding movie, The Fablemans, stuff like that. Uh, but it's always painting that person, I think, in like a brighter light because it's like, oh, look how they love movies and look how like the joy it brings them. This movie showcases, yeah, this person loves movies, and look how much of a fucking asshole they are to everybody around them who are just trying to help them or just trying to be a nice guy, trying to be a friend, trying to be a mom, trying to be like a kind of like a leader or not like a guardian, but like his boss at the video store, Lana. Just trying to be like just like, hey, like maybe you should apply to a Canadian school and not just New York University. Like have a backup just in case. Um, and just like realizing how like you're getting in your own head and everything, thinking you're higher and better than everyone else because Paul Thomas Anderson is making Punch Drunk Love coming out later this year, and you're gonna go see it, and no one else at school has, so you think you're higher than everyone, and it's just like, damn man, like this hit the nail on the head when it was like kind of growing up in high school during that time for me. It's a very niche, I think, appeal to people because not everybody, I think, like had that moment maybe in high school or growing up. Maybe it came to them later and they were able to be more mature about it and everything about how much they love film. I have yet to see that because everybody I've talked to has gone through this phase, and I'm still waiting for some people to leave this phase of their life as well, of being like the stuck-up film critic that they are in their head. Um, but for me, and I'll go more into details, but I want Dom to get some words in. I also need to refill my water because I just realized it was out, and if we're gonna be talking, I need to make sure I can actually talk. Um, but this movie just, in terms of coming age films, this one definitely hit the nail on the head to me in terms of just relatability more than anything else.
Joe, I'm just honestly glad that at the age of 30, you are well out of that phase of your life. There are many people online and a few offline, that blurs a little bit, that never got past it. So congratulations, you've matured.
It was when we went to go see the movie Blockers with my friends, and I said some critiques, and one of my friends in the driver's seat turned around and said, "Why can't you fucking love the movie? Why can't you just watch the movie and just like it? Just say you like it. You have to go into such great detail." And they just went on this whole rant. And then from that moment forward, I went, "All right, I should stop acting like that."
Well, thankfully, your pretentious ass has a home right here on Zoom. No, I Like Movies is a film biologically engineered to be a vaccination for teenagers against narcissism, and it shows so damn well. It's honestly amazing. As
Put that in
Joe,
the lead.
yeah, as Joe said, it is it's a movie that I think every teenage boy, particularly boy, should watch. Obviously the message is universal, but damn, there is something about those teenage years for boys and their fandoms, whether it's movies or video games or music or comics or what have you, or their video games based on comic book movies. It's a mess. And growing up is absolutely a mess. And I'm so glad that I Like Movies doesn't fall into the over romanticization of it. The whole time, in fact, I was scared for this movie because the whole time I'm going, I kind of hate these kids. I kind of hate them.
Yeah, I did too. I was
Yeah.
like, but like the thing is too, I always thought to myself, I'm like, coming of age movies usually you don't like the main character or
Mhm.
characters. Like there's usually something about them. It's like, God, I can't wait till you get humbled real quick.
Yeah. 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 Honestly, it, uh, and it's not just the fact that this is a Canadian movie, I promise, but this honestly reminded me a lot of Scott Pilgrim, minus the, martial arts and comic book transitions and all that stuff. It's a same overall template, the same core message of, yeah, you're an ass and you need to grow the hell up.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to make mistakes, and you are going to make mistakes, but the important thing is that you learn from them. And I am so happy that I Like Movies does has that message. That's first and foremost at the front of my mind and already worth a recommendation in my book. On top of that, the indie style of filmmaking here is really just a treat. It's breezy. It's got a lot of like small vignettes and they feel like cutaways, but that's because they're vignettes and they build the character of this small little world of this blockbuster-esque store. They call it sequels in the movie itself, which I don't think that was a real chain. That's just made for the movie, right? But regardless, that it's a cute movie that turns real going about the halfway point. And in fact, the fact that like that message of friend loss as well, because there's a friend loss in this story that hits so damn hard because you at some point in the movie you kind of go like, oh yeah, we haven't seen this character in a while. This is
Yeah.
what the hell? Where
And
is this relationship?
And
And
there's
then yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I'm like, there's also just this moment where and it's I thought it was such a weird choice, but the longer the movie went on, I went, damn, I think it was honestly done on purpose just to make you feel uncomfortable. The character often, Lawrence, that is, he often yanks at his hair, and the first time in the movie where he actually does pull a clump out, and like a violin kind of goes, like you get that A24 violin going, and I was just like, that felt weird. It's honestly when the movie does change and shit gets dark and like it gets depressing at times, like just what this kid is going through, man. It's like as much as I hate you, it's like, dude, having panic attacks, pulling out your hair literally, and just like crying like this, worrying about your future at this moment in your life too, when you're at a point where it's like in high school, it's like, hey, you either go to college or find a trade job, like it's like, oh, dude, like, yeah, man, like you're kind of an ass, but dude, I do feel sorry for you about this.
There's points where he like assaults himself and like slaps himself,
Yeah,
repeatedly and things like that. And
yeah,
that's when the movie starts to dial up a little bit and like that's when you really do start feeling because I mean, like I said, he's as obnoxious as he is, he's not really a bad person. He's just immature.
He's
Like
17.
yeah,
That's what it
exactly
is.
right. He's not a
He is
bad kid.
17, and I
yeah, yeah,
say
yeah,
that
yeah.
kind of derogatory, you know?
My cousins that I see often, they say some of the most stupidest, meanest stuff, and then like I'll humble them back like real quick. But I will never hold that against them. That like that's their character from here on out because it's like they're growing up. They're teenagers right now. One's literally 13. Like he'll
Yeah.
probably change at some point.
Yeah, it's the proper use of the term. Well, he's just so young, right? Uh, there's more extreme examples, particularly online, where it's like, no, I think this action is way and beyond your age. You're kind of a weird psychopath. Let's humble you real quick. But in terms of this kid, it's very relatable, especially if you're a guy here on this panel of three men in their 30s. this hits very much close to home. And honestly, I feel like I'm wrapping up already, but no, I have a lot more to say. But I'll punch it back to Joe. Yeah.
No, it's movies like this too, and this is not me trying to come at this movie, pulling it out of the bin years later that we all hate. But it's movies like this that make me go back and look at Dear Evan Hansen and go like, Jesus Christ, like this is why you kind of like when you're doing like some of these stories, it's okay for the movie itself to make sure to be like, yeah, you're not supposed to like this guy. Not for like Dear Evan Hansen to be like, no, isn't he great what he's doing? But like when you think about it, it's like, no, it's really not actually.
No, there's nothing wrong with. I think it's a testament to really good strong writing too. There's no bylaw that says you have to like a main character or have to like a protagonist or even that. Like, at times I don't know if I'd go as far as to say like Lawrence is kind of an anti-hero, but like there's reason to be said, and you see this a lot with coming of age movies, and that's why I like these movies so much. I had Dee Dee this year as or 2024 as one of my top 5 of the year. Is that coming of age movies kind of allow you to see both sides of the person? They allow you to see like the fun side of the person and why they might have friends or why people might like them, but then it shows like their shortcomings and stuff that they need to improve on and things like that. It's coming of age movies that more often than not give you two sides of a whole person.
They really do, and like again, like my favorite part about just any coming of age story is like the lesson learned, and then watching them kind of bloom after and transition really into adulthood almost. And it's like my favorite moment in this movie, and I'm not gonna spoil it or anything, but it is when he finally does get to watch the year end video for school and like actually what it means to him, like and actually makes him look at life differently as to like and I'll talk about more in the green room with you guys because I'm not trying to give away too much, but it makes him look at a certain individual that he was holding his nose up high to and realize like, damn, they actually do love like what I love as well if they're able to make this. And like even when he says like it moved me like emotionally, I was like, yeah, like you could tell like right here is like this is him getting humbled. This is him realizing like, okay, I need a change. There's other moments too, the near the third act and then throughout the third act that kind of set his way for the rest of the film, in terms of coming around. But yeah, man, it's such a damn good movie.
I think we really have to give all hail Chandler Levack for her work on this, both directing and
Yeah.
writing on it. It's really 100, like absolutely her child, this movie, because it is such. When I was watching it, I'm like, oh yeah, I know exactly who directed this. It's a young guy who had to get humbled coming out of film school and all that stuff. No, it's a woman, and it's like, okay, now I wonder if it's like she saw a lot of these assholes in high school and college and beyond, and now it's just a way of being like, this is how you should have matured, fellas. This is
Yeah.
how it should have been. I don't really know the true story. I'm pure speculation, but it kind of feels like that, and a much needed attack on that as well. But at times it feels like, and again, I haven't seen a single interview from the director at all, but at sometimes it feels like, for Romina de Ugo, the character of Alana, who is Lawrence's boss in the movie, she is, at times the voice of reason, but also like a second mother to this character. And
Yeah.
then where in all the summaries, because we were watching this online, right? Which, by the way, Fandango, only 24-hour rental. Only 24-hour rental. Please take note of this because we had to learn that the hard way. But in terms of the description, it kept, and even on the Wikipedia plot page here, it says, um, Lawrence struggles with his choices for graduation while coming to grips with his place in the world and his complex relationship with his boss. And that was the description on the rental as well. Complex relationship with his boss. And that frightened me at first because I'm like, oh no, does this get really, really dark and disturbing and unfortunate? But thankfully it goes away. That just reinforces the core point, which is that you need to grow the hell up. And the bundle of emotions that is a 17-year-old child with deep trauma and can't come to grips with the world and kind of needs to be humbled and put in his place. That character, absolutely, the character of Alana, absolutely came through, and it's just so, I don't know, it feels right to see, right? When you interact, when you not interact, but at least observe online on social media, uh, people who did not go through this, needed this experience, but didn't. It feels right.
It was
You know,
funny too. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I'll just want to chime in and say, like, that monologue that she delivers,
Mm.
yeah, where she's like basically looking right at Lawrence. She's looking at Lawrence, almost looking at the camera and stuff. Like, it was in that, and I don't want to give away because she goes into her, like, story, what led her to, be the manager of this video store. But, like the whole time I remember watching it, because I knew, I didn't know about Chandler Levack, but I looked into her a little bit, and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, this is so textured. Like, this is the kind of movie that, like you said, that like a Kevin Smith would make or something like that, you would assume. And then you get that monologue, and then you kind of and then you like, and you knew this kind of from the beginning, but like, there's no effort from the manager to like try to like entertain Lawrence's like tastes or like encourage his sort of like cinephile behavior. And I'm
Hmm.
like, this is, I think, one of the chief differences if this movie would have been written and directed by a man. I think that the character of Alana might have been a little bit more one dimensional, and
Oh
maybe a
yeah.
little bit more at least accepting of Lawrence.
There's
But
In
then
that.
you
service to the
in
male
Yes,
service
protagonist.
that
Yeah.
too.
there's always that. It's every like indie film like kind of similar to this, and I hate to like say about Cooper Rafe, but like Cooper Rafe kind of did this with Dakota Johnson's character, even in Cha Cha Real Smooth. But like it is like that pixie girl that comes into your life at some point and like changes you and everything because like your like interests align with her or something like that. Like it's Ramona Flowers. Hell, as much as I love Snack Shack, it's the girl in Snack Shack as well
Mika
and
Abdallah.
everything. Like it's like this girl that comes into your life, changes you, and then yada yada yada. Like it happens a lot in these movies, and it's like again, not to like say like it's like always like because of a man director, but guy directors usually do kind of lean that way. I just saw the view count drop by 1. That guy probably was like, "This show's getting too woke."
That's hilarious. No, but it's true though, and a little bit of background on Levack, and there's not a lot about her online, but she dropped out of University of Toronto.
Yeah,
I
I did
can't
read that.
find if she went to for studied film. I would assume, but I don't know off the top of my head. But I just think that like it's one of those situations where like I feel like you had to have known somebody or like
Yeah.
a certain type of person. Maybe Lawrence is like a hybrid of several different types of people that you knew, especially
Mhm.
if you did study film, which is a male dominated major. Like I think that, and I think that kind of comes through here in powerful ways. And I want to say this too, because he's making his debut, and Isaiah Lennington, who I think was 24 or 25-ish when he made this movie, when this thing was made,
Oh wow.
like
It's
Okay.
so fun. It's so funny how like we give
she had to
dear
be a
Evan
hell of an
Hansen,
actor, coach.
we give dear Evan Hansen shit for what's his name? The guy who played dear Evan Hansen shit for being too old to play a high
Ben
schooler.
Platt.
Ben Platt. Yeah.
Ben Platt, yeah. Honestly, it just comes down to how do you look, and it just didn't work for Ben Platt, but it absolutely worked for for this guy.
Yeah, he was like 24, but this was his first acting debut, or this was his acting debut. And he's really good. He's really
Yeah.
good, and I chalk that up to Levack too, because I'm like there had to be coaching there. There had to be something, especially during some of the more emotional scenes. Percy
You said
Hines,
film
what
acting because I think he was in TV. You said film acting, right?
film acting?
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Like a more developed role in this case too, because I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
at his credits. He had supporting or guest roles on a handful of different shows. He's also, and I didn't know this, he's also a rapper, and his alias is Hermit. It's just fun. What a great rap name is. I
That's
didn't
so funny.
know his rap name is Hermit. That's funny. But anyway, no, he's really good here too, because he's tasked with a lot of emotional weight of this character, and
He
he's
is.
also
Yeah.
tasked with like a character too that like, and this happens a lot in coming of age movies, but the performances really, it really gives you a testament to the performances if they nail this. Like he at times he has the look of somebody, especially in the video store, the look of somebody who can't process what he's feeling. Like he
Hmm.
nails that look.
He
Like
does.
you just
That
kind of see it where he looks like lost in like sort of himself, and he doesn't really know how to process it.
The times he breaks down too, and like just the way he's just trying to get a single word out, you could just tell. I mean, like it is just a kid who just doesn't know what to do in life, and he doesn't. It's almost like he knows that himself, and he's just living in the fantasy that he's gonna be able to get an NYU and that everything's gonna work out, just like it does in the movies. Like it's just like, it's almost like like he can't like comprehend just again emotions and everything. I've seen people say like it's almost like the character is suffering from autism, and I could totally see that be like a case with this character and everything. But I mean, even if he wasn't, I think it's just also just a great performance as him just being a kid who's just going through a tough period in his life.
And
I think there's no question that character is suffering from autism.
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
But the fact that the movie still the movie acknowledges it and still goes, yeah, sure, but you're still you're still a high functioning adult, and this is messed up. Yeah. You're kind of just using this as an excuse.
It doesn't absolve him,
dude. No. I had a similar, like when I was going through shit in high school and everything. I had a similar moment though when he was just on the couch crying and just didn't want to get up or leave, and his mom is just like, "You have to go. Like you're gonna be late for work." I had something very similar happen to me like that, and dude, like it is just terrible. And then upon getting to the location I had to get to, I crashed, not crashed up, but I did have like a panic attack.
I want to have more time to develop that story. We're butting up against the Zoom sponsored intermission. We will be back here in about 60 to 90 seconds on Sleepless with Steve.
Of us, my number 2 favorite film of 2023 is I Like Movies. It's a statement, and it is a movie that I truly love. It was looking to be my number 1 for a while for this year. This has been a floater on our schedule for a long time now. I got a screener of this back in the summer, I want to say June or so, and I thought it would come to video on demand pretty quickly after. This is a Canadian release, and it hasn't gotten its release in the US yet. It's still not, kind of remarkably so. I don't know what they're doing with this thing, but it did technically come out in 2023. It was released in Canada. And I always feel bad when I do this. Like I did it last year with Punch 9 for Harold Washington. I got a screener and I'm like, this is one of the best movies of the year, but you can't watch it. And I hate doing that, but this movie deserves some attention. This is a movie from Chandler Levack, and who is, I think, she's going to be one of the next great directors to watch. It is amazing to me that this movie is about this high school kid that is this awkward movie lover, cinephile, who dreams that he's going to New York University to become a filmmaker, to NYU Film School. He lives in Ontario. It's set in 2003. He gets a job at a Blockbuster, and essentially the movie is not so much an endorsement of this kid, but also an indictment of this kid. Those of us who were young cinephiles like myself too might not want to admit, but we were a Lawrence Queller at times. That's the lead. That's the character's name in the movie. He's played by Isaiah Lentinen. He's someone who's so obsessed with film that he lives and breathes it. He schools people who don't love the same movies as him. And when he gets a job at the video store and the manager says, "How many copies of Shrek do you think you can sell this week?" He says, "I'm sorry, I took this job because I thought I was going to be promoting real cinema."
That's really funny.
It's so niche, but it's not a love letter to cinephiles. In many ways, like I said, it's an indictment. It's kind of not something you want to hear, but something you need to hear if you were a teenager. And I tried not to be like this, but I inevitably was. But beyond the whole movie references.
Back and better than ever at Sleepless with Steve after our Zoom sponsored intermission. We were talking Chandler Levack's I like movies. Finally get to see this movie. Put it on my list. Was number 2 of my favorite films of 2023. Finally got to talk about this with the guys because now it's available to stream. Probably should have said this at the beginning. You can rent it on a variety of different platforms. Actually, I have the Just Watch widget on my website. You can rent it on Fandango at Home, formerly Vudu, Google Play, Apple TV, Amazon, Microsoft, and YouTube. Shout out to Just Watch too. I have them on my website below every review where you can stream the movie. So it's saves me time in Googling, and it's a nice little widget. The one thing completely irrelevant. Sorry, do you guys know what Just Watch is? Have you seen it?
No.
If you look up, you've probably seen it. If you Google a movie and you look on the side and it shows you where that's streaming, that's
Yeah, okay,
Just Watch.
okay.
It's a website, but it's a widget. And they contacted me. I had my webmaster installed on my website. You know what's funny though, and I don't know how this happens, but what's funny though is like, so on my end, when I'm writing a review, I have a box that says Just Watch, and I have to put the hyperlink, what the movie is coded as on the website in order for it to appear the watch options. It's not always what you think, though. You can't just guess it. Sometimes it's I-like-movies. It's as simple as that. But sometimes it's like stream-2024 or something like that. But then there's other times where the movie gets added to the database before it's even in production. Dogman is untitled DreamWorks animation film 2024. One of them days is untitled Columbia TriStar buddy comedy. Like it's so strange. Nobody would know that unless you're like somebody who uses Just Watch. Nobody would know that, but I just felt like I don't know when the hell I'll ever mention that again. But it's just I have to Google it and then I have to like copy the hyperlink and I'm like, oh, this got added to the database like 3 years ago, evidently. But anyway, we're talking I Like Movies, the Chandler Levack film. Joe, you were in the middle of something. I didn't want Zoom to cut you off, so I want you to finish your thought there.
No, yeah, you're good. I was just talking about how real moments in this movie feel, at least for me especially, and that like the moments of the panic attacks that Lawrence goes through that I just like I just was sharing a similar story where, oddly enough, I applied to Columbia University because I wanted to do what Lawrence wanted to do. I got rejected. And when I read the rejection letter, I just remember being on the couch and just being destroyed and thinking what the hell am I gonna do and everything, and I just didn't know what was even in the works. It was I was so caught up and I wanted to go pursue movie making in some sort of way that getting rejected to that, I was well, what the hell am I gonna do now? And I remember too, we had to go because it was a Saturday that I opened the letter and everything, and my mom had to take me to, I think it was maybe what was it? We had to go to a family thing or something, and it was a communion or something really important, and I remember I just didn't want to see family. I didn't want to see anybody because I was I don't want to tell anybody how I'm doing or what's wrong with me. I don't want anybody to know. And yeah, he just has a very similar moment to that. And when we ended up getting to the place and everything, I forgot what it was. I think it was somebody was talking about their future and everything, and then what they're planning on doing. And it just made me get up, leave, and I went to the bathroom and I literally just sat down and I just had my head down. I didn't cry or anything. I was just 1,000-yard stare, just I don't know what the hell I'm gonna do. And
just it's those moments where it's the world knows you're depressed and fashions every single person to hone in on your insecurities in random conversation.
And this was gonna bring to a point that I've been seeing this, and I do have a criticism with the movie, but it's not the one I've seen generally, and this typically comes with coming of age films. But the criticism I saw online from a lot of people on Letterboxd, or the people who were lucky enough like Steve and got to see this early in some way, whether it's a festival or they live in Canada, was it's just it's so weird how many times life just doesn't continue to work out for him and everything, and just these anomalies just continue to happen, and he manages to escape on by or whatever, and I forgot exactly what they were saying, but they were just saying the plot just kind of feels loosely connected tragic things one after another. And I almost want to reply to the person when I saw that and just go, but buddy, that's life. Like it's just like that's just what happens in life. Where it's just like there's just days where it's like it's one thing after another, and it's like this movie doesn't shy away from that. And maybe the coming of age movies or the film lover movies don't really highlight that part of the person's life. They the whole like being in love with film shows like a high point in their life. To like kind of spin it now and just go, no, like life is life, and bad things gonna happen to you, and you can't let this be your like your defining personality and trait. You have to grow up. I just thought that made it more real, and it just like it made me almost feel like to the people who are having issues with how that's being portrayed in the movie and whatnot. It just made me go like maybe like you're just still stuck in that mindset about movies still, and like you just maybe took like some not offense, but you kind of just took it a little bit more like like personal, I guess, or just didn't see it that same way. I don't know, but like to me it was like it was not one of the parts of this movie that bothered me at all. Was like the fact that like it does have a dark turn and stuff gets sad and depressing relating to like this kid's obsession.
What Lawrence has to realize, and I think it's effectively and naturally sort of, you know, guided during the third act of the movie, is what he has to kind of come to the realization is that like he's got to stop living vicariously through movies and using movies as a one up, because he doesn't have a car, he doesn't have like anything else that he can like wag in front of people, and in high school that's pretty much you got to have something,
a status quo,
like a status quo. You have to have you feel like you have to have something that sets you apart. Well, he has movies and love and knowledge of movies and like an unchecked passion. What he has to realize is that like he's got to stop living through movies and like bedazzling like directors and actors that don't know he exists.
Yes.
He has to start going out and making a life that he is proud to live, with movies playing like a supporting role. And I think that's also part of the problem too, and you really see it when Matt leaves to kind of go do his own thing, especially in the video club and whatnot. When Matt leaves to go do his own thing, he just doesn't have really any friends. He hasn't really been socialized in a way that doesn't revolve around movies. And even his chief activity with his best friend was watching movies, and it was a completely like insular passion they shared, and now he doesn't have that.
And I was gonna say that was the one thing he did have that he could say is my status quo, is like I have this friendship where like we have like a special night, we have a rejects night, they watch SNL and whatnot, and yada yada yada. And it's like he loses that because what does he do? He gets a job at the video store to help feed his like his whole thing about movies, so he gets 10 movie rentals and give up his Saturday nights to go work at the video rental store when he knows like, oh, this will definitely cut in because I have to work past midnight sometimes and everything. Another guy, I get it, like a job's a job, you gotta get a job at some point and everything, but it's like that was he literally did it because, oh, I love movies that much, I want to work some way with movies.
I will also add too, and this is like a smaller part of it, because this movie's like so thematically rich and leaves you with a lot to like think about, especially if you did see yourself in Lawrence.
Which it doesn't look like at first. You think this is going to be just a breeze of a movie, fun. And it is fun, but it's got so much more beneath it, and it's so simple. This movie is so effing simple looking, and it lends itself to it so well. Just this overall, like again, I said my first sentence on this review was that this whole thing is like a surprise vaccination for teenage boys, and it just ambushes you on that, and everything works in its favor. Everything works in its favor, down to the aesthetic, the simple aesthetic.
Yeah, and I mentioned earlier too, this thing is shot in 4:3 aspect ratio, so and it's set in 2003, so it looks retro. It looks like how we're accustomed to old television looking. Actually, Catherine and I just had this conversation last night about how, like, I said the one thing that, like, the streaming era has just kind of, like, in the HD era, it was even kind of before streaming, that they've kind of adopted that, like, without question. And I don't really know if this bothers anybody else, but it kind of does me. Like, and this is another point, but, like, television, I think one of the things, like, why sitcoms and this is just, I can't prove this at all, but I think one of the things that like the reason that sitcoms have kind of fallen out of favor, or there's not really been like these pivotal sitcoms recently, is that television just doesn't look like television that much anymore. And I'm not talking about like epic shows like Yellowstone or something like that. That's a totally different brand of television. I'm talking about like the simple like 3-4 camera setup shows that are now widescreen because everything is shot 16:9. Everything is kind of shot like a movie in so many ways. And now there's like in the streaming era, everything, a lot of it, Netflix is the chief offender of this. Everything is stretched now to 16:9. And shows like Friends were never made to look like that in 16:9. They were always made to look at like 4:3, which looks like television. And it's one thing that I just feel like is like an unsung thing that people kind of sense, but they don't know. It's like the soap opera effect on your TV when it's the frame rate. You know, like you can feel it, you know something's off, but you can't really put your finger on it. I just wanted to use that as an opportunity to bring that up. But there's a certain appeal to this aesthetic, though, with the movie being shot 4:3. It looks warmer and it looks more intimate. I noticed this definitely like in Lawrence and his mother's house, like when they're watching TV late at night and it's lit by that lamp. There's that like there's a warmth of this movie. There's also like this muted color palette thing that really makes the DVD cases in the video store pop that I appreciated too. Like even if the character of Lawrence doesn't fit this vibe, this movie just kind of has what I call like a friendly looking aesthetic.
Yeah, 100%. I kind of like this movie. I honestly think I do. Do we have anything else to say? Should we
Any other major points,
motion?
guys? I'll go last.
What was I gonna say?
We're gonna do closing thoughts.
Not what was it?
I didn't mean to force the issue. If you got a lot more to say, go for it.
No. My only gripe with the movie, and it's not really a big gripe or anything, but it does separate something where it's like, even though I'm gonna give this the highest, I hate to spoil, I'm gonna give this the highest rating we can on Sleepless, but like on Letterboxd, I have it as 4.5. I don't have it as a full 5. Is that, nah, I would say there's a point in the middle with the video store stuff where it's kind of just going a little bit through the motions of a coming of age movie it kind of just started sticking out to me a little bit more as the movie went on, where it was just like, damn, like the beginning, and then like once he like, you know, he starts interacting with Lana a little bit more and everything, I'm like, that really did something more unique that I haven't seen done with this genre. It's like right around the middle, like the start of the second act, I felt like it was starting to tread just familiar ground. But then, yeah, when it switches up, and it was just like, there was just moments I was kind of like, I really wish we just got to this stuff sooner, because I honestly would have preferred dealing with more of the dark side and a little bit of the depressing. I know that doesn't sound appealing to a lot of people, but I really would have loved to get to that sooner, because I would have loved to explore a little bit more relationship stuff between him and his mom, which I did like. They did good here with it, but I wanted more at least.
I've only seen it once, and I'd have to actually like watch it again, and I won't because I don't have time. But I feel like that in my mind, I feel like I had a similar feeling, but all of that was justified because it's like, hey, here is the status quo. We're having fun. If you look up I like movies on images, like a Google search and then image it in the image tab, you'll find all the promo pictures.
They're all like
it's
smiling.
him in the video store, and all of them having fun. The 4 video store folks, the workers, and it lends itself to the marketing, you know, goes in that direction, and that middle part definitely goes in that direction until you slowly uncover that no, there's way more to this movie than you even thought this was even going to go. So that by the time it gets there, it's like, oh yeah, I just got hoodwinked, man. I got totally taken.
It's such a minor gripe I have too. It's almost like I like it. It was something to me, like when I was finally like writing it down and I gave it the star rating I did. I was just like, but it's not like it just wasn't fully there just yet. But I'm like, dude, I bet if I rewatch this movie, which I do want to own this because of how much I related to it, and just like I think this would be great for anybody who just loves films to see it in some capacity.
Well, I'll say I did have a critiques,
Oh,
and
go ahead.
I just think that there's too many women in this movie, so
Oh, yeah,
it's
fair.
3.5 out of 4 stars only. No, I'm kidding. Sorry, did you have something to say, Joe?
No, no, no. It was just like, because like it was like on the tip of my tongue. I'm like, damn, I want to give this like really just like the full stars. I'm like, but there was that part of me. It's just like I feel like that was just kind of holding back. I don't know. It just sucks when I'm thinking about like, oh, do I want to give it the full rating or not on like something? It's so annoying sometimes. It's a good problem to have. Don't get me wrong, but this is one of the movies where I wish. Fuck, I wish I didn't have to give a star rating. I wish I could just say I just fucking love the movie. Like,
Who wants to start with closing thoughts?
I'll go.
I'll start it.
Oh, go ahead.
Like I said earlier, I think this is a movie that every teenager needs to watch. And I hope it becomes a cult classic in that way. I don't think it will, just because it doesn't have, like, not in the way that, like, say, Scott Pilgrim has a similar core theme that's much more buried, but it has so much more going for it in terms of its crazy aesthetic and comedic moments, and it's more over the top that became a cult classic. I don't think this will. This feels like a movie that you come back around to in your 30s, much like we have. And but I do hope that this will be kind of a good message for those type of people, because I have found that some people are more receptive to hearing life lessons from like third party sources, like from a podcast, a movie, TV show. And as
Yeah.
disturbing as that might be at sometimes, I'm just glad that at least we have good messages such as this one. And honestly, pretty damn good filmmaking to boot. So a boot. So if anything, I will give this I'll give this 4 stars. I'll give it 4 stars just on that alone. Because the performances were just really strong.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I didn't go too much into like I thought the person what's her name? She plays Alana. I thought she did amazing in this movie, man.
Romina Diogo.
Yeah, dude. Like every time she's on screen, like her being the voice of reason, and how they slowly like unlayer her character as the movie goes on. I was just like, man, every time she popped up, honestly was like, oh man, like I love learning more about her and like where like their friendship, quote unquote, is going between her and Lawrence.
If you want to look at how good of a actor she is in this movie, look at her IMDb page, and none of her headshots give off the vibe of her character.
No,
it's all fierce womanhood in her headshots.
She reminds me of just like any like like those early 2000 comedies at workplaces, like Waiting or anything like that, like the boss that is just fed up working somewhere but they have to stay positive. But she really does bring like a whole new like energy to it, of like that kind of character of like a boss who's just annoyed of like where they work. Yeah, man, for me, I think this just does a great job at like capturing a very specific group of people, and that is us, film buffs, film cinephiles, whatever you want to call us, all that stuff. It does such a great job at holding a mirror to that, and what we love about it is also the ugly side of it, of making that our personality and everything. And I almost feel like, yeah, it is kind of like the required viewing. So like before you go to college, like, hey, get this out of your head that you're better than everyone else, or that your film opinion really like matters that much before you go to college, so you can actually make friends and like start adulthood. Because I really do think this would help like any kid who's just kind of like lost in that mindset and everything. This felt a very personal message. This felt very personal filmmaking at its best. I absolutely did love this movie. It is 4 out of 4 stars for me as well.
We got a 4-star hat trick here too, because I also gave this movie 4 stars as well. I love it. I think it's one of the most brutally honest movies about, or probably the most brutally honest movie about cinephiles that I've seen. And having like last year, I think it was the tail end of last year, saw Kevin Smith's new movie, the 4:30 movie, which was amusing at times, but it also felt like a very diluted version of this. And it felt like, okay, this is if he didn't learn the lesson. Okay. This is if Lawrence didn't learn the lesson. That's how that movie felt. So it absolutely suffers that other movie suffers by comparison to this one. But I just admire the fact that Levack really made this movie like not a love letter to individuals like Lawrence. It's an indictment of people and the perils of somebody with an unchecked passion. Not something they want to hear, but something they really need to hear. And it's a
Yeah.
very hyper realistic drama. There's some tough scenes between Lawrence and his mother, Lawrence and the manager Alana. I think it's a large cast too of really compelling performances that make these characters dynamic, and that is again a credit to Levack and her great writing here. I'll be interested in what she does next. Her next project I just saw when you guys were talking. Her next movie is called Mile End Kicks. Mile End Kicks. It is Barbie Ferreira's in it. Jay Baruchel's going to be in it. And those are probably the biggest names right off the cuff. The movie is based on Levack's experiences as a young female music critic. So I'm curious. I'm very curious to see kind of where her trajectory goes with this too, because I like this movie a lot. I think I hope the people that need it find it. And I think with sites like Letterboxd, I do think that it will appear and people will gravitate towards it. But I agree with what Joe said very early on, though. I think it's niche, but I also think it's a movie that even if you never saw yourself as somebody like Lawrence, I think you appreciate the story. And
Yeah.
I think you appreciate the evolution of the characters too as a coming of age movie. So yeah, three dudes, 4 stars for I like movies. Damn, am I good with recommendations or what? I make you, sometimes you guys have to wait, but I do come with some good ones.
You
I
do.
think
Yeah,
that-
we have
I
to
think-
wonder if the movie's even real at times.
I think the next one that's in limbo now because we were going to review it on Sleepless, but then it disappeared from theaters. I think the next one that's going to be in limbo here for the foreseeable future that I still want to discuss is Hard Truths. Or even Anora too. Catherine just chimed in. We didn't review Anora. That would be one. That would be one post Oscars I would love to do too.
I would love to do that too because I'm so mad I like missed out on the. You know what's so stupid? AMC, they're redoing like the Oscar campaign Best Picture selection,
Yeah.
but it's 2 days only. So you go one Saturday and you watch 4 movies in one day, and you go another Saturday and you watch 4 movies in one day.
See, that's no way to do it.
And
Like,
it's just like no, if you're gonna bring it back, just let me select the ones I need to see. Of course, I would love to watch The Substance, Dune 2, and all these other ones that I have seen over again. But like, let me get to the ones I haven't seen right away.
And Oscar movies aren't the types of movies like Best Picture nominees aren't the types that you really want to gorge.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're movies
wanna
you
give it
kind
time
of
to
want
digest.
Yeah, to sit with you and stuff like that. Like I mean, Jesus Christ, if I had to watch the Nickel Boys, Anora, and The Substance, like all in a row, like
That's literally the first day too. It's Nickel
fucking
Boys,
wreck.
The Substance, Anora, and then Conclave.
oh, that's an afternoon, man. Jesus Christ, and then ends with Conclave too. You know, I hate to say this. I saw this on the news briefly last night too. I guess Pope Francis isn't doing so well.
Yeah,
I guess
know,
he
I
isn't.
thought about Conclave as well.
He's got double lung pneumonia. I'm like, it's terrible. Does this up Conclave's odds? Like, I like Pope Frank. I like Pope Frank. He's one of the only popes I've really paid true attention to and actually wanted to hear what he had to say. But I saw that he's got double lung pneumonia, and I'm like, oh, Conclave. I'm like,
the streaming description on Conclave is like this timely papal drama, and like the Vatican is going, what the hell?
I wonder what he thought of it if he saw it. I wonder what he thought
I
of it.
doubt it.
He'd probably like it, knowing kind of his personality. He'd probably like it. I think he would. But yeah, I felt like mentioning that though. Next week, Osgood Perkins returns to theaters with The Monkey. You know what was funny too? I'll add this. We're gonna review that next week though. The Monkey. You know that fucking guy's got another movie coming out this year that's
Are you
not The
serious?
Monkey. Yeah, because I've long story short, I got in contact with somebody from Neon. I'd like to interview him again. But he's got another movie coming out in October called The Keeper. I'm like, this dude just doesn't stop, man. That's 3 movies back to back to back. Like, So it's not going to be the last time we talk Oz Perkins on this show, but we will review The Monkey next week. I'm looking forward to it. Super excited to see what that movie is all about, especially after chatting with Perkins too. I think it's going to be a really cool movie, just from how he explained it. But that'll be next week on the show. I really appreciate you guys watching I Like Movies too, because I think it was a really good discussion. Lived up to my expectations. I'm glad it lived up to yours, and I'm glad it lived up to my hype as well. Thank you very much for watching. As always, we come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening at 6:30 Central Time. Until next week, for Joe Viso, Dominic Guanzon, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.